Politicians, healthcare professionals, and corporate leaders. She regularly broadcasts for BBC Radio on mental health, well-being, and spirituality with over 200 million listens. She features on TV and in a number of newspapers and magazines and has contributed to several books. So it's a great honor and privilege to have her speak to us today. And so without further ado, please take it away.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to your wonderful community. I've known Rukmini for a few years now. We've actually never met face to face, but I'm looking forward to when we can. But we are indeed friends, as she said. So let's start with Mangalarchanam, and let's do this together so we can invoke the blessings of the Acharyas and be given some permission and blessings to be able to speak. So, Umagyan Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamaya Dati Swaptantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakambitamascha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'd like to start by just wishing everybody a Happy New Year and wishing you a prosperous New Year, very Krishna conscious New Year. And I pray that by the end of this new year, you will have experienced a successful Krishna conscious life. And in keeping with this theme of new year, new beginnings, or actually a time to take stock, review, see how we want to progress with the new year. What do we want to focus on? What do we want to prioritize? We thought we'd speak on this topic of becoming authentic. Authenticity is something that I think it's become quite a buzzword, especially in the last few years. It's become a buzzword in spiritual communities. It's become a buzzword and a buzz concept, I would say, just even in the secular world, in the general, people are looking to experience more authentic environments, being more authentic themselves, and being with authentic people. So what does this word authentic mean? I always like to go back to the dictionary, okay, because language is important. Language is important because when we hear something, when we experience anything, but particularly when we hear something, it leaves an impression. It leaves an impression on the mind, both in the conscious mind and also in the deeper parts of the mind, like the subconscious and the unconscious parts of the mind. So words like authentic carry some meaning, even if we haven't, really gone into what it might actually mean. So I wanted to look at the dictionary meaning and came up with a few things. Authentic can mean of undisputed origin. It can mean genuine, the original, So, and I think as individuals, we kind of experience authenticity as I'm being true to myself. Okay, true to myself. And when we're not being true to ourselves, when, for example, we're behaving, speaking, or experiencing others' behavior or choices in a way that doesn't resonate with what feels true to us, it feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? You kind of want to get out of there. And this is something we call ego. We call it this in the psychological world, ego dystonic. You know, when something doesn't fit with our ego, our identity, our sense of who we think we are, we feel uncomfortable. We then have two options. We either get away from or change that behavior, either in ourselves or others, or we change our mindset to accommodate it. Now, it's interesting because, you know, sometimes, actually, not sometimes, we generally try to live by ideals and values which are either improving things for ourselves or for others. And for many reasons, we may not always live up to those values. And when we don't, we feel uncomfortable and we feel inauthentic, right? We feel, what's the opposite of inauthentic? It's hypocritical. And we want to get back into a position of authenticity very quickly, because if we don't like feeling uncomfortable, we're really rubbish at feeling uncomfortable. Don't like it. The minute we're uncomfortable, we're looking for the next way to make it comfortable again, whatever is causing it. So we want to get rid of this ego dystonia and or this ego dystonic position. And so what we do is we find ways to do that. The ways to adjust. I don't want to feel like a hypocrite. I want to feel authentic. So what do we do? Now we have two choices. One is do the right thing. The other thing is change our mindset so that we accommodate it. So for example, think about the last time you lied. I bet the last time you lied, and we've all done it. Everybody's told at least one lie in their lifetime. We tell a lie. How much mental cogitation do we have to go through? How much do we have to think about to justify that lie, just to feel comfortable with the fact that we told, oh, it was a white lie, it doesn't matter. Oh, it was for that person's improvement, it doesn't matter. Oh, it was don't disturb them, it doesn't matter. Oh, it was a surprise. You know, maybe for someone's birthday surprise, we might allow it. But we don't like feeling uncomfortable. So this mood of I want to be authentic, it is driven to some degree with I want to feel authentic, because actually when I'm authentic, I feel safe, I feel comfortable, I feel happy. But at the same time as being authentic, being our original, true, real self, we also want to be unique and we want to be individuals, right? We want to stand out. We don't want to just blend in with everybody else, right? I want to be real, but I don't want to be like everybody else. At the same time, we want to be loved and accepted. And we'll often find that actually when we're being true to ourselves, and particularly perhaps when we are standing out and being individual, we may not always be loved and accepted. So how do we manage that? Do we change our ideals? Do we change the way we are? Do we change who we are to someone who's inauthentic? I remember working with a client once, and he was in politics. He had a very, very high position in politics. And I remember him telling me that when he entered politics, and I think this is the experience of many people who attend, who, you know, have careers or services where there's leadership. But he told me that when he entered politics, he did so with the intention of wanting to make a difference, to bring ideals to the world, to bring ideals to government, to bring ideals to the country, and to improve things. So, but when he got into it, he saw that the people around him didn't necessarily want him to do that. They wanted to keep a certain status quo. They wanted to keep things in such a way that their positions of power would come first, and their influence would come first, and improvements would come second. Because to improve things may mean losing their own position. To improve things may mean having people disagree or thinking less of them. And so he said he found himself bending and lying and twisting at things. And he said it's eaten away at him. He said, 30 years on, he feels like he's not been true to who he is. And it's had a significant impact on his health, his physical health, his mental and emotional health. And more importantly, biggest impact has been on, he feels like to some degree, he spent 30 years of his life living a lie. So it has a profound impact on us when we don't live by our ideals and our true values. Very generally, 3 areas, before we get into actually looking at spiritual authenticity or real authenticity, the 3 areas that we are generally looking to be real or authentic in. We, especially as adults, we're often looking for authenticity in our purpose. Am I serving in a way that is true to me? Then we look at our authenticity of our identity in terms of our personality or character. Am I behaving and speaking and coming across in a way that is true to me? Am I interacting with others in a way that's true to me? Am I viewing the world and others in it in a way that feels true, that feels right for me? And last but not least, by no means least, and I think we often forget about it because we tend to pay more attention to this particular area when we're younger, is our appearance, our physical appearance. There are going to be certain appearances that we feel much more comfortable in, certain clothing, certain ways we're perceived, and all of these feed in. But if we look at these 3 areas, they come together to give us a sense of who we are, but the problem is they're always changing. Okay, they're always changing. And because they're always changing, it's very difficult to keep up with being authentic, because our ideas around how we should look, our ideas around how we should behave, our ideas around how we should think, and our purpose will change. What's ideal now won't be ideal in 5 years. What's acceptable to our current peer group now may not be acceptable in 5 years, especially if we're growing. And so again, rather than bringing some sort of this conflict in our ego, or maybe you're not so accepted, it also can bring strain and stresses in our relationships and can push us to perhaps either hold back and not grow, or grow but then not connect with others, or try and grow, or attempt to grow without connecting with others. So I think it's really important with this, first of all, with our sense of identity, to first of all really acknowledge that even if we're just looking at authenticity in this world, who we are in this world is for the most part informed by others. It is validated by others, and we will conform according to what makes us feel loved and accepted. Because when we feel loved and accepted, we're quite flexible, aren't we? When we think about the people you're most comfortable with, you're quite comfortable changing what you do with them, changing how you behave with them, changing how you appear with them. Yeah, those seem to have less value. So I want to do a little exercise first before we kind of take it to the next level and look at real authenticity. Where does real authenticity come from? Let's look at how we operate with this mood of who am I now, and how do I find authenticity now? So, I want to kind of, it can be difficult, especially on a digital class, to just focus on listening all the time. So let's put something into this so we can get more out of it. So if you have pen and paper, those of you who have pen and paper, brilliant, get your pen and paper. If you're somebody who prefers to type on your phone or tablet, I'd like to do a little exercise with all of you, just to see where we're at. Even if we've not really explored this idea of authenticity, I think this exercise can be very helpful in terms of assessing where we're at right now. So I want to ask the first question. I want you to think back to when you were 18. Okay. Now, if you're only 18 now, maybe think back to when you started secondary school or high school, okay, when you first started. But if you're over 18, think back to when you were 18. And I want you to have a think about, what is a simple thing? At that age, what did you look like that felt most authentic? So how did you wear your hair? What clothes did you wear? Maybe you had a particular style of shoe that you always wore. Maybe you were very careful about your appearance in terms of what size or shape you were. Maybe you went to the gym a lot. I don't know, have a think about it. What was important to you in terms of feeling true to yourself and your appearance, via your appearance, your self-expression through your appearance at the age of 18? I bet you haven't. Some of you have probably not thought about that in a long time. When I was doing this exercise and I was thinking about the questions, like, and I did the exercise myself. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Because I'll take you to the next part of this first question. I want you to think about it when you were 18. What was important to you? What did the real Rukmini at 18 look like? Or Naveen Krishna Prabhu, what did the real Naveen Krishna Prabhu? She had a different name when you were 18. What did you look like when you were authentic? Okay, and after you've done that, I want you to do the same thing for now. When you are feeling your true self in this world, how might you dress now? Are you a tracksuit bottoms and hoodie person? Are you a dhoti person, a sari person? Are you a Punjabi suit person? Who knows, right? Three-piece suit. What is it? When do you feel most authentic? What kind of clothes, what kind of appearance? Do you like a lot of makeup? Do you like your hair up, down, shaved head, lots of hair? What makes you feel kind of authentic? Yeah, this is me. Bright colors, muted colors. What's you? Like I look at this color and I'm like, yeah, this is me. this color is me. It's like a yellowy golden color. And more importantly, for both of these ages, 18 and now, let's go a little deeper. At 18 and now, who set the yardstick? Who was it that, and might be one person, might be many people, maybe many sources, that informed your sense of how you dressed, how you appeared, how you looked? And same now. Who informs it? What's the yardstick? Who set the gold standard? I mean, it can be as simple and as obvious as, well, I wear sari and tilak now. I feel authentic in sari and tilak. And this is the standard set by my spiritual master. Perhaps you wear a particular type of fashion because you admire someone in the fashion industry and you understand the backstory to why people dress like that. That's how you dress. So there's just have a think about who informed it. Just gonna have a look, see how people are doing. Okay, not many of you on cameras. If you guys can switch on your cameras, that would be really nice. Okay, so second question. Now I want you to think about your best friend when you're 18. And if you can't think of a best friend when you're 18, maybe put yourself in these shoes. When you were at your most authentic, most comfortable, being most real, most like you, what kind of person were you? What kind of a person were you at 18 when you're feeling most authentic, when you're feeling most real? Are you jovial and comedic? Are you defiant, irreverent? Are you soft, gentle, and kind? What were you like at 18? What was your personality like when you were being your most authentic? Has that changed now? When you're your most authentic now, is it any different? Has there been a change since you were 18? I know we've got some young people on the call. So like I said, maybe compare and contrast at the start of secondary school or high school and now that you've graduated.
So we express now or we wait till the end?
We'll wait till the end. I'm going to hear from all of you when we've done all 3 sections.
Okay.
I know you're keen to share. That's good. I'm glad. No. I'm going to come to you first then. That's good. You volunteered.
No, I wanted to find out what I understood correctly. So
yeah, sure. I also want you to again look back and think about at 18 and now, who's informing your ideas around how you should behave, how you should think, your personality, your characteristics. Perhaps when you were younger, it was mainly informed by your friends or your parents. Or again, there might have been a celebrity that you followed that you wanted to be like, and so you tried to emulate them. And now who's informing this authentic personality or persona? The persona in which you feel most like, yeah, this is me, And last but not least, let's look at purpose. At 18, what did you see yourself doing in the world, contributing to the world, making your place in the world when you were thinking about it? You may not have known then, but you may have had some ideas, some aspirations. What were those aspirations where you felt like, if I do this, I'll feel really like me. This is so me. Did you see yourself as a motorbike stuntswoman or stuntsman, a pilot, maybe the next Elon Musk of the future? Maybe you saw yourself as a pujari in the temple, even at 18. So at 18, what did you see as your purpose, your contribution to society? How you would make your place in the world? And again, do the same for now, right now. When you're at your most authentic self, what are you doing in this world? Who are you doing it for? And why? And for this aspect of the self also, who informed these choices? Who helped to inform the choices around your purpose when you were 18 and your purpose now? Purpose is important. We always have purpose. Even eternally, we have purpose. We have purpose even in Golok or Vrindavan. Right? When we're with Krishna, we all have a service. There's a purpose to service. We work dynamically and serve dynamically together. But I don't want to get ahead of where we are. So I'll give you a minute or so because it's still writing. So maybe we'll have a couple of people share. I was just going to check with you. We go till half past, right? It's 1 hour.
Yeah.
So maybe Naveen Krishna Prabhu, since you were very generously volunteering, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the first question, like how has your appearance maybe changed, or your values around your appearance have changed since you're 18 and now, and maybe has there been a change in what it's informed by?
Oh, thank you. It was very interesting. So I never thought about it. So I need to put, at 18, I was in my undergrad engineering college first year. So the most of my aspirations is made from others, just to be accepted. And then I was also very shy. That time even though what I had in my mind, I never used to express. Only the people whom I feel comfortable, 1 or 2 people. Otherwise, I just kept myself within. I used to hold my feelings and not to express, thinking that I'm okay. So in that time, I was also in RSS, India. I grew up in India, RSS, strong Hindu background. I want to become a serious service, secret service agent, working for army or something like that. Was my
wow.
bodybuilding and then exercise and that kind of a thing. Very strong personality. That's why. But now I'm 52, so the things have changed. So now, the shy person, now I'm not shy because now you see I'm the first person to express. There is no fear, and whatever in my heart, I don't mind to express, and I can talk to anybody, anywhere, anyhow. So whatever is in my hand, of course, sometimes in a sensitive way, but otherwise to articulate what I think, now I don't have to think twice.
Mm, mm.
So that's me because of after coming to ISKCON, it's 23 years. So the knowledge which gives me a confidence and conviction and the purpose of my life, I know what I want to do, where I want to go. That gives me the confidence and sit there that nothing to lose. The path of bhakti, nothing to lose. Everybody's servant of Krishna, so do me. So there's nothing to express or communicate.
So who are your major influence? I'm hearing very strongly that now your whole sense of identity, whether it's your appearance, the way you interact with others, or your purpose, is very much informed by your spiritual values. So when you were 18, who were your key influences then?
These are people around me, and of course my parents. My father is my ideal. My father was a lot of influence on me. So, few friends.
And have there been times where you've done things over the years where you've wanted to live by your ideals and your father has not been in approval or disagreed with your choices?
There are sometimes, yes, there are sometimes, but otherwise, my father always encouraged me. He never questioned me because he
Nice.
had a confidence in me too. Initially, before he was behind me, like a tiger. My father was like a tiger to me. Then after that, he's kind of let me go, and then he was always there support.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for opening up the sharing. Who else would like to share their journey of authenticity? Anybody else? I'm going to pick on you if you don't. Put your hands up. I'm going to just look through to see if anybody's got their hands up. Everybody's shy today. Okay. Rukmini, go ahead.
All right, so are we answering all the questions now, or
yeah, if you want to, you might as well. I was
particular
going to go
question?
one by one, but it seems to work well that people are kind of giving their full story of progression
see.
and growth.
Okay. Well, yeah, it was quite a transitional age when I was 18. So I just had gotten I got Harinam when I was like 18 and a month, and then I went to graduate school. I was starting my PhD program in math. So what did I look like? I was wearing glasses, t-shirt, jeans, sneakers. I would say that I actually paid much less attention to my appearance when I was 18 than I do now. And
Do you know why?
I felt at 18, and actually for some years before, I felt like my appearance was just hopeless. I actually felt like there was no point in trying. I actually felt pretty bad about my appearance at that time. So fortunately, I gotten over that in the intervening years. So I wouldn't say that I try a lot, but I'm at least more comfortable about it. And then how do I? And another big difference is that I always wear tilak now. So my Harinam guru didn't say anything particular about it, but when I got Diksha in 2006, so at that time my Gurudev said specifically that wear tilak everywhere, always even to the office, and I didn't start doing that then because I got initiated in India, and he was giving a Diksha class to a bunch of people, so I just assumed that he meant, everybody else. And then some years later, I was like, wait, he never said that he only meant everyone else. So then I started doing that. But I would say that at that time, when I was 18, my appearance, I guess I just dressed at most maybe my mother, and like I said, I wasn't paying much attention to dress. And now I wear a t-shirt and skirts more often than then, and I like blues and greens. So, although I'm not wearing any today, so that's more often. About What
Has
was?
who has have the influences on your physical appearance and what's authentic, what's acceptable, what you feel comfortable in, have those influences changed? Because
Yeah,
clearly there was an influence when you were 18. You say you didn't pay much attention to your appearance, but it was kind of the, opposite, in the sense that you did pay attention to it, but you felt it didn't fit with, or wasn't acceptable, or good enough.
yes,
And so you
yeah,
felt, yeah, so there were clearly influences there that didn't match how you appeared, your true self, or at least yourself at 18. And maybe now it's a little easier. So have the influences changed? I mean, who were your influences back then?
yeah. I would say that I was dressing perhaps like, so I guess I wasn't very conscious about it, but I was in a field where most of the people were men, so perhaps I was, dressing to be one of the guys. That's possible. Yeah, I guess so. My mother and the people around me. Um,
Okay.
but
I
I
mean, I know,
wasn't.
I know it sounds like I'm making an issue of it, but I don't mean to do that. I think
Uh-huh.
what I'm trying to highlight is that we often don't realize how much we're being influenced, and especially today. And this is not necessarily for yourself, but just generally, for anybody else who's listening. I know so many more people are accessing digital media, and views around and opinions and standards of what people look like have changed. And there's a much wider range, but there's a much more false range, in the sense that there's a great use of filters and enhancers, etc. And so many more young people and older people are finding themselves kind of looking at this and going, whoa, I don't match up to that at all. And it can go one of two ways. One is you go, okay, well, I just feel hopeless about my appearance, so forget about it. Or you endeavor and over endeavor trying to match up, thinking, okay, well, then I'll be the real me. I'll be authentic because I'll be accepted by others. Right. So I appreciate you actually being honest and saying that actually my appearance, I don't focus on it because I felt hopeless about it, because that's quite a difficult thing to, open up about. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'd say another thing about now, I guess. One thing about this Zoom background. So when we started in the pandemic in March 2020, I just had, everybody suddenly got on Zoom, and so I used to have a bookshelf in the background, and it was just the wall where the computer happened to be, and then I heard I went to a workshop about. Actually, the topic of the workshop was about connecting virtually, and they mentioned that there's Zoom fatigue, and that actually they had like a banner behind them, and they said that having a busy background contributes to Zoom fatigue. So then I actually got this banner online, from Wish.com. So that's an aspect of my current appearance that is influenced by people around me.
Okay. That's nice. So your appearance now, what feels authentic and real to you. Also, you're thinking about, what does the impact of my appearance have on others?
Yeah,
What's the
yeah.
impact of my appearance on others? Yeah, and that's I guess something that comes more as we mature, right? Did you want to say a bit about personality and a kind of purpose?
Personality, I was very, very quiet and introverted. I am still introverted, but I was very, very shy. And now I'm less. I'm still very introverted, but I'm much less shy. I'm more friendly, and also I was very studious at the time, and I was just very, very involved in studies, and I didn't converse a lot with people outside of my family. And now I feel like I'm a little bit more friendly and like to exchange humor, especially with people who get my sense of humor. So that's something that has changed. And about purpose. So at the purpose, I had entered a PhD program in math, and I intended to be a mathematician and just spend the rest of my life doing math. And and now I'm a data scientist. But I would say that my purpose is being a writer and speaker. And so back then, I guess my purpose was more influenced by my teachers, and now it's more influenced by seeing young people and what do they. And I really like asking questions and answering questions. So and young people have a lot of questions. So just trying to connect with them and see what they need. So that's something still aspirational, I would say, on my part, even though I'm much older. But I feel it's more true to me.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And did you, just same question for you, did you ever find that as you were growing, as you were changing, as your sense of authenticity changed, and what made you feel authentic change, were there people around you in your life who meant something to you who maybe didn't agree or weren't comfortable with the choices you were making? Did you get any opposition that made you perhaps not go down a particular path?
I definitely feel that most people don't understand me. I think that that's still the case, but I would say that and that thing about there were definitely people who didn't understand about leaving math. So that was, I mean, I don't feel that I've left math just because I'm not a professional. I mean, I sort of am a professional mathematician, but just because I'm not in academia. So that was definitely something that that I would say has been had some impact on me. Thinking about what other people thought, and I've had a very I would say a idiosyncratic path in work.
Your comment about that although you've evolved and changed and you feel in many ways you're still being true to yourself and authentic, you still feel misunderstood.
Yes. Or I don't know, misunderstand makes it sound like I expect people to understand me. I don't expect that anymore.
Okay, so it's more that people just don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, a few people do, but it's not as important to me anymore that people understand. Yeah.
Is there anybody else who'd like to share before we kind of move on?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Who am I hearing from?
My name is Lilambrita. I live in Los Angeles.
Hare Krishna.
So when I was 18, I was living at a temple, so I was wearing sari most of the time. And I think I was influenced by the devotees, by the temple, by my community. And now I don't live at a temple, and most of the time I'm wearing yoga leggings, sweatshirts. It's when I feel more comfortable, more myself. Yeah. And when I was 18, my purpose was to preach. I was doing Sankirtan. It's when I was feeling more myself. And now I'm a yoga instructor, so I feel more myself when I teach yoga, when I talk to people about spirituality. Yeah.
Okay. And same question to you. Have you, as you've evolved, as you've grown, as your sense of who you are in this world has changed, have there been people who have opposed or stopped you or disapproved, and people who are important to you who've disapproved?
No, actually, I feel that people around me, they appreciate me and then accept me for who I am. So I also work in an office, and yeah, it's kind of, I'm the person who's way different than most of them in the way I talk and the way my lifestyle. But I feel they respect for my personality, who I am, and they like me for who I am.
Good.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. So they accept you and they love you for who you are. That always makes it easier. I guess the downside of that is if we're constantly surrounded by people who don't challenge us, then if what feels authentic to us maybe isn't good for us, then that can make it difficult, right? Because there's no one there to tell us, oh, hang on a minute, not quite sure you should go down that route, this might be better for you. You know, that might be a step backwards, although it feels more comfortable. But thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for listening. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. So,
are you going to answer these questions yourself, or it's a little?
Do you want me to answer these myself? Would it help you? Would it be nice for you guys to hear my answers?
I'm very curious.
I'm just conscious of time because we're already at 5:12. I don't mind.
I'm curious, but I maybe others can say.
Out of curiosity, I mean, for me, I think if I answer this in terms of looking at appearance, I would say at 18, I was probably typical of most 18-year-olds. My dress sense and fashion choices probably came from looking at around young people who were like me, similar age. Things I think were simpler in the 80s and 90s. We weren't bombarded with so many different choices. It's, you know, and I think I had quite a simple upbringing. So although it was like, yeah, I'd like to wear that, I'd like to wear that, I was pretty happy and comfortable with whatever. And I think, you know, coming into Krishna consciousness not long after that, the shift and having what we wear more influenced by spiritual values and what's good for us spiritually wasn't such a big jump, because I guess being of Indian culture, saris, etc., bindis, maybe the only unusual thing was tilak, but tilak's not that different to bindi. You know, you get some huge bindis. So yeah, appearance-wise, it was fine, and I think I was pretty easygoing with what I wore. I think for me, it's more, especially at that age, was more the personality persona side, you know. And I would say, I think I was fortunate because I know for many of the girls my age from Indian backgrounds, almost this idea of, okay, you've got to just be quiet, keep your head down, not be outspoken. If you're intelligent, dumb it down. You know, boys have more rights, stuff like that. They often had those pressures. I was really lucky. My parents were never like that. So I always felt very much that, you know, I can be and fully kind of integrate into the personality that I have now. And then over the years, even the devotees who are my seniors and friends, my spiritual master, all of them kind of encourage this, because we have this mood in Krishna consciousness that dovetail everything, you know. So as long as everything's used in Krishna's service, it's, you know, it's great. You know, it's when it becomes a problem. And I guess as we go deeper into spiritual life, we learn how to switch on and switch off those different aspects of ourselves depending on what's required. And same with purpose, I guess, because for me, Krishna consciousness happened around a similar time. I mean, my purpose when I was 18, because I was already at medical school then, and meeting my guru whilst I was in medical school, etc. All of that just aligned in terms of both Sanatan Dharma, so spiritual purpose, and purpose whilst I'm here, kind of matched up. So I feel like there's, for me personally, there's been a lot of synchronicity and acceptance, and I think for me the challenge, or what I've seen develop over the years, actually similar to Naveen Krishna Prabhu, is that as we go deeper in our spiritual life, as we feel more love and acceptance from the Vaishnav community, but even more importantly, within our own spiritual connection with Krishna, through our japa, through our reading, it anchors us. And I've experienced that the other aspects of the self, the more transient aspects of the self, are less important. And actually, I'm really glad you encouraged me to share, because it's organically kind of brought me to my next point. You know, with this session, looking at becoming more authentic, is that, you know, one thing this exercise probably highlighted for many of you is there have been times where, you know, you've really acutely experienced a change in what feels right to you, and maybe other people haven't adjusted to it so well, or you've experienced a change in what feels right to you, and you're not adjusting to it so well, or your surroundings have changed and the way you are doesn't fit your surroundings, right? Maybe you experienced this when you went deeper in your spiritual life, that somehow or another, the friends or family who to that point had loved you and accepted you, and suddenly are going, what's all this you're doing now? Hang on a minute, where's the space for us in your life? And why are you giving so much attention to this? And it can be difficult. And even if we look at authenticity, if we look at purpose, if we look at our original state, people are often looking to see what's my true nature, what's my real personality, right? People do personality quizzes all the time. People love knowing about themselves. I know when I'm working with patients, if I have some insight about what they're like and first impressions, and it's accurate, they're like, oh my God, that's so right. And they're delighted by it, to feel understood. Like speaking to your point, Rukmini, as well, it's when someone does understand you, it feels so good, doesn't it? And yet, feeling understood at 18, who I was at 18 is different to who I am now. There are some core things which are still there, but there's many things where I'll never do those things or think like that again as I did when I was 18. So these things, these aspects of ourselves, it's very hard to be authentic if our sense of who we are is only rooted in our nature in this world, in our social roles, in our personality, in our physical appearance, because those are always changing and our surroundings are always changing. And because of all this change, we experience happiness and distress. And why do we experience happiness and distress? The distress comes because we're losing something, or we're about to lose something, or we have a concern that we're not going to gain what we want, isn't it? And so much of that is to do with who we think we are. In fact, if we look at the Bhagavad Gita, what is Arjun's problem? What is his issue when the Bhagavad Gita opens? He's in one sense or form, he's having an identity crisis. The reason he's having an identity crisis, and what shows he's having an identity crisis, is he does not know which Arjun should be deciding to fight. Now, if he sees it as a warrior, he should be fighting. If he sees it as somebody who's been betrayed and abused by his relatives and has seen his wife being abused by his relatives, he should be fighting as her protector. But then he looks across and he says, oh, but my teachers are over there. As a student, should I be hurting my teachers? Oh, but my cousins are over there. As their brother, should I be killing them? Right? And he's thinking, oh my gosh, they're also the husbands and fathers of so many. As a responsible member of the community, should I be killing them? Because all these women and children are going to be left unprotected. So he's in a real dilemma. And this identity crisis is what kind of leaves him feeling bewildered, anxious, and grief-stricken, as he says to Krishna. And he puts down, he says, I can't fight. I really don't know who's fighting. And that's evident also in the way Krishna responds to him. Because Krishna says, he's saying, you're intelligent. So what's happened to you? He's saying, well, gosh, it's almost like your one identity has been split into so many. What is normally cohesive for you, and you can decide, is now got to become fractured. All these different versions of me and aspects of me are all telling me different things. And that happens to all of us. Everybody's battle of Kurukshetra comes at some point where there are many aspects of yourself in conflict. And for many of us, that is really the turning point in our Krishna consciousness, when we really dig deep and take shelter of Krishna's words, because what Krishna gives Arjun in response is actually Arjun's authentic self, the original self. That is what authentic means, original. Krishna says, yes, you have all these voices, all these different, and he appeals to him like that. He tries to get him to fight, to appeal to his ego. He appeals to his intelligence. He appeals to the karmakandic side of him that wants to have a good life in this life and the next. He appeals to him via jnana yoga and dhyana yoga, and then ultimately he just appeals to him with this. You know what? You're not who you think you are. You're actually, that which pervades the body, entire body with consciousness. Now that to be the soul, that's you. Amazing, cannot be cut, cannot be burned, cannot be dry, cannot be wet, never, has no beginning, no end, cannot be changed. Amazing, eternal, full of knowledge, blissful. But this is who you actually are. The authentic you, the real you, underpins all of these different roles and identities that you hold in this world. And when you are informed by the real you, which is fully alive when you are in connection with me. Because even if we look at all the other aspects of ourselves, they're fully alive when we're in connection with a function or a person, a purpose or a person, right? All of you who shared, everything you shared was in relationship with something or someone, right? Whether it's in relationship to other math students or other disciples or friends or your parents. It was in relationship. So this is the thing, the real authentic self, the original self, is fully alive when in relationship with our origin, with Krishna. And you know, this mood that authenticity feels good, authenticity feels safe, authenticity, when we're authentic, we feel happy. That happiness is born of the reciprocation we get when we are in connection with Krishna, but it's also born of the personality we have, the characteristics we have, and the qualities we have in our true self. I want to read something from CC. So, you know, we often talk about the 26 qualities of a devotee, right? The 26 qualities of somebody who is really waking up to who they are in their authentic self. And this is Madhya Lila, this conversation between Lord Chaitanya and Sanatana Goswami. This is chapter 22, so verses 78 to 80. So devotees are always merciful, humble, truthful, equal to all, faultless, magnanimous, mild and clean. They are without material possessions and they perform welfare work for everyone. They are peaceful, surrendered to Krishna and desireless. They are indifferent to material acquisitions and are fixed in devotional service. They completely control the 6 bad qualities, lust, anger, greed, and so forth. They eat only as much as required, and they are not inebriated. They are respectful, grave, compassionate, and without false prestige. They are friendly, poetic, expert, and silent. Now, these qualities are of a devotee that we aspire to. They are actually natural to us. They're actually part of our true nature. And they only need to be uncovered. Because they're part of our true nature, even when we experience them in others, regardless of their culture or their creed or their race or their gender or their religious disposition, we find them attractive. And one of the reasons we also aspire to be like that is because when we are behaving and feeling and thinking and functioning like that, we feel good. We feel happy because it's natural for us. Nobody gives us a textbook as soon as we're born telling us, you know, you should be attracted by love. You should be attracted by kindness. You should be attracted by forgiveness. And you should want to be like that. No, we just naturally gravitate to that because it is inherent to who we are. So this mood, that this understanding that being authentic, being our authentic self feels the most comfortable place, feels like the safest place, and feels like the most joyous place, really can only be experienced fully and consistently when our sense of who we are is actually anchored in our sense of who we are in relationship to Krishna, our spiritual sense of who we are. Now, this is not to say the other aspects of who we are in this world are minimized because of it. In fact, they're enhanced and they're enriched. You know, our spiritual authenticity, or our real authenticity, our original self, is reinstated when we take to the processes of spiritual life. Why? Because all of our limbs of bhakti, all of our 9 processes of devotional service, whether we're calling Krishna by his name, whether we are hearing about his pastimes with us and the rest of our community, okay, in the spiritual world, whether we're hearing about how to please him, how to please each other, how to serve each other, whether we are sharing our most intimate worries and aspirations with Krishna through prayer, whether we see Krishna as our best friend, whatever process we're taking shelter of, that quite literally draws out who we are, because our true authentic self, we have personality, we have intelligence, we have purpose through service, we have form, we have joy, we have a multifaceted, multisensory experience, and a whole life that's untapped. And when we engage in these activities of spiritual life that draw out the true authentic self, then actually living in this world, we can experience dynamic authenticity. What does that mean? As we were saying earlier, all those things that we think make us authentic in this world, they move, they change. That's dynamism, isn't it? But that dynamism feels uncomfortable when that is all there is in our life to direct who we should be and when we should be that and to whom. But when our true authentic self is deeply rooted and anchored at the lotus feet of Krishna, okay, at the lotus feet of the devotees. And some of you have already experienced this and are experiencing it every single day. Then it doesn't matter how much dynamic movement is required in our purpose in this world, in our appearance in this world, in the persona we have. You know, we relish that dynamic movement. You know, it doesn't feel uncomfortable. It doesn't feel contradictory. It feels actually very spiritual. It's like being truly aware whilst you're on stage that you're simply playing a character. And if someone throws a surprise or misses a beat, you just improvise. Right? Because who you are isn't tied into the character you're playing on stage. Because who you are drives the character that you're playing on stage. Does that make sense? So I want to ask one last question in terms of bringing this exercise that we did full circle. If you feel that you are as authentic as you could possibly be, then you don't need to answer this question. But if you feel there's still some way to go in really genuinely being authentic, being real, experiencing love, acceptance, your own unique individuality, and at the same time being true to yourself, if you feel there's still some way to go, I want you to look at those 3 parameters. Your appearance, your persona. And by appearance, I don't just mean how you look to the outside world, but it could be your physical health. I'm talking primarily about the body. Your body, your psychological sense of who you are and your purpose. Who would you like all of those things to be informed by? Who would you like to set the gold standard for that? In terms of bringing you to greatest acceleration with your spiritual growth. And this is a good question to ask yourselves, or for all of us to ask ourselves and take stock of, because other influences can seep in, especially when we've been practicing spiritual life for some time. Do we need to bring it back, or do we need to shift focus? So who should, or who would be like these 3 aspects, even in this world, to be informed by? Who do we want to set the gold standard? And to what degree are we taking shelter of that person or those people? So if we just take a couple of minutes to reflect on that, and then maybe we can just open up for some comments, questions, sharing, any complaints or corrections. You know, I was going to share that in the 2nd chapter when Krishna talks about just like a person gives up old and useless garments, similarly the soul gives up a useless body and accepts a new one. And a sober person is not disturbed by this change. change is inevitable, as we were saying earlier. But being rooted in who we are to Krishna, who we are to Guru, who we are to the Vaishnavas, brings that sobriety. It brings that steadiness. It brings that gravity. Because love is very grounding. Feeling loved is very grounding. We often think it makes us feel excited. Yes, in the beginning, love is very exciting, right? It's almost intoxicating. But deep love, sustained love, is very grounding, makes you feel safe. It's a shelter. Krishna's love is a shraya, a shelter. So over to all of you. Please help me with your wise words and open your hearts.
Thank you very much, Shakti Mataji. Wonderful presentation to start the year. To open mind, open the heart, and then take a journey from here. So really, you do. Thank you very much. I have of course, a long way to go. But however, Krishna is too far away to me. So do Acharyas. But somehow I've been accepted by my Guru, so long as Radha and Swami Maharaj. We can fill in a tiny portion of his mood and his personality and his lifestyle, in his purpose. So I think my life will be perfect one day. That's my aspiration.
Nice. So for you, you want to develop further that every aspect of yourself is informed and the gold standard is set by your spiritual master.
Right.
Because they've seen the truth.
Right.
So they know how to take us there. Wonderful. Thank you. Anybody else? Anything you'd like to share, even if you don't have any questions? You have more wisdom, more knowledge, more Krishna consciousness than me, so please do share.
Yeah, well, like Naveen Krishna Prabhu, I felt that it was logical that the person who would help me get closest to myself is my Guru Maharajas and Guru Dev. And then if we continue that line of thought, then it would be, Akhanda Guru Tattva, that's Sri Nityananda Prabhu. And at the same time, he's an avadhut. So that's the essence of authenticity, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, we have to lose our mind to become our true self, right?
Right.
It's it's funny, actually, when I was serving Bhakti Maharaj, my spiritual master, in his last few months, as he was getting right towards the end, we would often have discussions about how the mind functions, especially towards the final stages of life. And I remember we were having one conversation about overcoming fear. And I could see he was testing me. He was kind of trying to get me to use the skills that I'd learned in kind of progressively moving away from fear. And at the end, he said, all of these things, all of this stuff that you understand about the mind, it's good. It's good. It's very helpful. It's good to know all of this. He goes, but at the end of the day, you have to just throw it all out of the window. He said, because beyond this, there's a transcendental madness and it's not governed by the mind. And so I think about that often. I think about that a lot. That, in all these years of looking at the mind and serving and trying to understand how the mind can be used as a bridge to surrender, at the end of the day, actually, we want to and have to lose our minds to embrace Krishna. So Avadut Nityananda, yes, he is the gold standard. Anyone else? Any questions? Any other comments? Maybe it's pretty self-explanatory, today's topic.
I did have a question, but I wanted to give other people a chance if they have.
No, go ahead, please.
Yes, so you were talking about the 26 qualities and how when we're being truly authentic, we'll actually have, when we actually reach authenticity, we'll actually have those qualities because they're part of us. So a thing this reminded me of was particularly one of those qualities is humility. And I don't know how familiar you are with Benjamin Franklin. He's the early American founding father, but he talked about how when he was young, he was very overbearing and very prideful, and then someone took him aside and said that, you are, this is actually, unattractive, and you rub people the wrong way because you're so proud. And so he pointed out that at first, he had a lot of trouble not acting that way. So then but he very quickly learned how to act humble and speak humbly, and that was much easier. And it only took it took much longer time to actually become humble. And he felt at the time that he was writing he still wasn't humble, but he was. So that's something that in our path we're all practitioners. So we may aspire for those qualities, and then I can learn to speak humbly, and then I can be very proud of how I'm speaking humbly. But so how is the how is it that we're being authentic when we're acting in a way that we don't feel we're really at that place yet? Especially this humility is very tricky.
Yeah. So as you were asking the question, I was thinking there is a human and psychological side and behavioral side of humility. And then there's spiritual humility. And they can appear to look the same, which is why I think we are poor at developing humility and recognizing humility. Because often we will, like Benjamin Franklin, attribute humble behavior as being kind of meek, externally compliant, even if your mind is saying something else, maybe not being so outspoken in that moment. And yes, that gets people's cooperation. And yes, that's a stepping stone. And that is a beginning. But it is more like the human side of humility. It's still limited by our mental faculties and our attributes, still limited by whether we're feeling irritable on a day or not, or what we're going to get out of it. It's not coupled with the empowerment that comes with real, genuine, deep spiritual humility, which actually is a combination of submissiveness and actually feeling brave. What does this mean? Real humility is rooted in the fact that actually, even though I have limitations, because I am limited by this human mind and human body, especially currently, even though I have limitations, I'm backed up by the Supreme. And I'm backed up by Krishna, who is the source of everything. And with that backup, with conscious connection with that backup, we feel empowered to then be brave enough to speak the truth, to do the right thing, even if that means an adjustment in our personality, even if that means an adjustment in our mindset. Either way, sometimes it will require us to behave very boldly, and perhaps in a way that may not be in keeping with what somebody may externally recognize as humble. And other times it may mean keeping our mouth shut, particularly if we have the kind of personality where we don't keep our mouth shut. But that strength comes from the humility that is empowered by trusting Krishna and that he's got our back. It's really hard to be humble when we don't feel backed up, because humility is born of feeling protected. It's born of feeling safe. When we feel safe and protected, then being honest and being bold and protecting others comes naturally. And to do all of those things in a palatable way, like Krishna speaks about speaking the truth in a palatable way with kind words, becomes easier, because there is a difference between I guess, the human side of humility and true, deep spiritual humility. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. I'll want to meditate on that. Thank you so much.
Do you have any reflections yourself on that?
Well, I could just tell a brief story that somebody was. I had gone to a small gathering where a devotee was talking about the difference between being humble and being kind of like namby-pamby. And so he gave this whole Harikatha, and then at the end, someone said, we want to be humble like worms in stool, but actually worms in stool can be very aggressive.
Yes. Yes, they can. You're not going to say more. You literally just stopped there. Worms and stool can be very aggressive.
Well, then that's what happened. We all just started laughing, and that was the end of the Harikatha.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? I'm also conscious of time, so I'm gonna Naveen Krishna Prabhu. Is there anything else you'd like to raise or discuss, or do you need to?
Yeah, because to end the point, you made a point initially, like you're trying to be yourself, honest to yourself, and then at the same time, you also said if you cannot, but change the mindset to accommodate others. So I wrote it down because for me it didn't go together. So if you want to be true to yourself, if somebody accepts or not, so you be yourself, but it can come as a provocative way or may harden others. But if you start accommodating others, that means you change your mindset, not changing internally to accommodate or changing internally accommodate. If you can.
Well, this is why in the exercise I got, we were all thinking about who's informing it, because who's informing our sense of who we are is really important, because not only are they setting a standard, but they also have a motive. What's their motive, right? So when we're all getting to this point, we're like, okay, I want to get back to my true, authentic self. So really, my standard needs to be set by somebody who also wants me to be my authentic self, which is why Krishna tells Arjuna, when Arjuna says to him, so what do I do next? So he says, well, seek out a bona fide spiritual master. Inquire submissively, render service. They can give you this because they'll give you your authentic self because they've seen the truth, right? They can give you it because they have it. So that's what they're motivated by. So if the person you learn from, the person who sets your gold standards, motive is, yes, I want you to fully realize who you actually are, then, excuse me, even if we do have to modify ourselves, it's okay, because we're going for something better than what we have now. Think about all the modifications we make to our personality, to our appearance, to our purpose, when it's uninformed by spiritual values. They're usually directed by other people whose motives are not always in our best interest. And even if they're in our best interest, they're getting something out of it.
Yeah, correct. Thank you. So that's the reason initially Arjuna, he was working in 2 dimensions, which is Swadharma and Swabhava, based on his own dharma and based on his nature, Swadharma and Swabhava. And then Krishna patiently listened. At the end, he started Asocham Navasochasmi, you all know the story. And then, but he presented the 3rd dimension, Swarupa, which is his eternal nature. So that's where the totally took over from there, presenting the thing. At the same time, that's who can understand that dimension, but not leaving the Swadharma and Swabhava also, but accommodate and put the 3 together and then make sense out of it. That person actually seen the truth. And then he's the Krishna, not only in deities and chanting, but he sees everywhere.
Yes. Thank you. So Naveen Krishna Prabhu, I think you're the boss. What do we do now? Do we end?
Usually if there's nobody has any questions or comments, so we a few announcements. So the announcements is that in Columbus, we still monitoring the status outside medical status. So right now, it's a public gathering is not allowed yet in Columbus temple. But in a week or two, we will take a stand and see how things going on, and then we'll open the temple back for the public program. But however, temple is open for darshan. But that is one announcement. The second announcement is that this Ekadasi coming in 2 weeks. So we usually do 3-hour Kirtan on Ekadasis. Please see Ramesh Prabhu for scheduling yourself. That's pretty much. Thank you very much for everybody. Especially we like to thank Citi-Śakti Mataji for giving an opportunity, presenting this wonderful topic, which we usually don't talk, but really appreciate for she gave us an avenue for rest of the year to meditate on that and then take it journey from here.
You asked for this topic. I suggested something on the mind, and you said, no, people find the mind too much. Okay, let's do a softer version. But thank you for having me. Happy New Year again, and let's become comrades in our journey to becoming authentic.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Madhavacharya Prabhu, so wonderful to see you. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, thank you for the class. It was, as always, extraordinary. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, who is kind. Haribol.
Thank you. So we will end with the Vaishnava prayers. Those who can, they can at least open up the videos. If not, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Hare Krishna.